start the screen share. I'm going to also take attendance while you guys are joining that. There's two major ways that we can add images to our pages. I'm going to turn down this mic a little bit. It's a little hot. Two major ways that we can add images. One of them is locally, which is a way that keeps everything compatible with other stuff. It also, when you're co-working, when you're working with multiple different developers, they get all the files that they need because we have the potential, if it's on the internet, that somebody might take the image down or the link might break. There's a lot of things that can happen that'll make it not functional, right? Okay, so here's the example. Just kidding, it's not ready. Let me start my server. Let me also enable screencast mode because I forget that in first period. Okay, now you should be able, my goodness, I have the hiccups. Now you should be able to see all the buttons that I'm pressing where I'm doing specific stuff. Run, dev, see if that works. Oh, I did run dev as one. Haha, run dev. There we go. Okay, so this was the link that we put together, or I put together in first period, showing you how to make images behave really nicely with two specific methods. One of them is a little bit better for the computer. It's a little bit more user or computer friendly. One of them is a little bit easier. It's a little bit more developer friendly. But both of them are perfectly valid ways to add images to your pages. Okay? Here's a couple pictures that I have taken. So I'll do another example. Let me actually clear all these out. Let's get rid of this real fast. And let's also get rid of this real fast. And that should just leave the fairy. Okay? So, actually, let's get rid of them all. Okay, so we have, based on this demo, my Flexbox thing that I showed you earlier this week. When you want to add an image to your web page, you first need to choose if you're going to go the local route or the internet route. The local route is the one where you take the file that you've created, like a photograph, like a drawing, like a scanned PDF, something made on paper that you digitized, whatever, that needs to go inside of the public folder. Now, I saw a lot of first period and fifth period wanting to put images in the images folder, and that's a good guess. The frustrating part is that's not exactly where the computer wants to find them. It wants to treat every source that's not HTML or JavaScript as something publicly accessible. And so, as a result, it doesn't want you to put stuff in images. Bless you. So, the cool part about VS Code is that it functions similarly to your file explorer in the way that you can copy and paste things, you can rename them, you can move stuff around into different folders, you can add and delete folders, all the stuff that you can do in the file explorer, you get a little bit more visual or a little bit more organized version in VS Code. Okay? So I have a collection of some images that I have taken. Let me open them up real quick. Open file location. These are all the images that make up my wallpapers. These are all pictures I've taken on film over the years. So they're going to be what the examples that I've used, like you would have if you had a bunch of your own imagery to share. So we're going to go outside of our Flexbox. So remember, this line indicates that these are parents, and then everything inside of those parents is going to be their children, right? Containers. Images work similarly when you do the Next.js version, but when you do the HTML version, don't make your life harder than it has to be, okay? VS Code's designed in order to make it easier for you to code more quickly and more accurately, right? So if you prefer to write out the shift comma and then the letters IMG and then add the src equals manually, you can do all that. That's totally fine. It will get you the same results. However, if you want to save time and you want the computer to do a little bit of work for you, just type the name of the tag, no alligator mouths, and hit enter. Okay? This is called IntelliSense. It's the VS Code intelligently sensing what you're trying to do. Now, the keyword is trying. The computer's not going to make the correct guess every time. And there are still elements that you need to code the long way. But a lot of the time, you can just do it real quick, and it'll give you everything you need for that. Okay? So, This is the start of the image tags that we're used to. It's IMG, and you need two specific things. You need src and you need alt text, okay? Can anybody tell me what src is short for? Lucky. Source, exactly. Okay, can anybody tell me what alt means or what it does for the page? Amelia, wait, you got a hand?
When the image doesn't load, that's what shows.
Yep, it's exactly what's going to show up if the image doesn't load for whatever reason. Okay? So before we need any alt text, we need a source. Sources can be found in the public folder. Here's a couple ones that I used in first period. But if I have an image in my file browser that I want to put on my web page, let's say we want to do, what's one? Let's say we want to do this image of the water, right? We want to include some water on our page for whatever reason, okay? This file name right here is the exact thing that we're going to need to type in. So in order to make it easier on ourselves, we want to get this first into the public folder. So because VS Code, sorry, I kind of switched directions there. Let's focus on one thing at a time. Let's get this image into our folder so that the computer can find it, okay? Since VS Code works similarly to your file explorer, you can click and drag, let me full screen this. You can click and drag an image all the way over to the public folder like this, and it will copy right in there, okay? You could go the long way of using your file explorer, and then it will automatically pop up here, but the computer is smart enough that if you drag and drop a file into a folder, make sure that you're putting it within a folder, it'll appear, as you can see right here. Okay? Now with images and sources, because remember computers are very literal, we have to give it this exact ugly butt file name if we want it to appear on our page. Let's make our lives a little bit easier by renaming this image something related to what it is. Okay? So I'm going to right click on my image and go to rename, and I'm just going to call this water, actually I'm going to call it waves.jpg. Okay? Same thing is true. It's a file, so it's lowercase. And I know now that when I hand this code off to the next developer who's working on it, when they see a file called waves, they can better assume what it is compared to 00901034905.jpg, right? Okay. So, to recap, you bring an image into your public folder, and then you rename it accurately to what it is, and now we can call it in the source. Okay? Does that make sense so far? Okay. We're going to go back to our page.tsx, and in the src section, you first need to add a slash so that your computer knows to look inside of the folder. All right? Computers, remember, they always need very literal instructions. If you were to try and copy the relative path of something, like if I go here and I copy as path, if I try to put this as my source, this is way too much information. Okay? I saw this happening a handful of times in first and in fifth period, in your class as well, but it's not a call-out. This relative path is too much information even for a computer. Okay? Keep it simple. We're just going to do the slash, not a period, the slash, and then the name of our file, which we just renamed to waves.jpg. The bummer is the computer's not able to find waves.jpg and autocomplete like some other HTML is, but if you type it exactly as it is here and here for your source, just like you do when you connect folders to nav bars, when I Control S, Waves image is going to appear here on my my page. Okay? And then I'm going to add a little bit of alt text, just call it image of, I'm going to do actually B and W for black and white, image of waves, period. Okay? So now, if my waves.jpg ever goes missing, if I were to delete it, okay, and I refresh, Control S, in theory that should have removed, there we go. Okay, so now since the image src is no longer true, right, it's looking for something called waves.jpg that it can't find, my alt text is going to appear. So let me get my waves back in there real fast. Right click, rename, waves, enter. Okay, so now, since I re-added it, it should reappear, right? That's one way to add images to your site. This is typical of the HTML way, because it's got an SRC, it's got alt text, and all you need to know is that your SRC needs to be in the public folder. If your image is on the internet, let's look up some Waves images on the internet here. Waves, there we go. Let's see what it comes up. It's probably going to give me the song. Nope, it's not. That's good. Okay, so this is something that I know you've practiced already. We need to isolate this image the same way that we isolated the image in the public folder by right-clicking and open Image in a new tab. Okay, the same way that if you copy the link on the File Explorer, copying this link won't work. You have to isolate the image and then copy this URL right here. Okay, as long as the only thing on your page or on the internet is the image, you can put that in a source. Okay, so if I just click this, Control C, Control V, I've already correctly configured it. I don't need to configure it again. I'm going to change the source right here, Control V. Oh, shoot, I copied the code. I need to copy the image again. Whoops. I'm going to copy this URL, source right here, put it inside the quotes, Control S, and that should load my wave image underneath my black and white wave image, right? Did you notice how slow the wave image loaded in compared to when it was in the public folder? Public images are going to load much faster than internet ones. The difference is pretty close, pretty hard to tell, but it is definitely going to load in faster if you put it in your local, right? So, I'll recap that one more time. Let me split this so that we have a group again. Okay. First things first, if you're using an image that you have on your computer or your phone or whatever, that image first has to go in public. Okay, public right here. Then you can just type img, and it's going to automatically add the source bucket and the alt text bucket, which you'll fill in with your specific file name. Then once you complete it with this little slash, the little ghost element right here, it'll appear on the page. You can do those same set of steps by skipping the public section and just going straight to a URL, as long as it's only an image, and then that will also work the same way. Okay? Does that make sense? It's similar to what you've already done with a couple setup pointers that will make it easier for your computer to find what you're looking for. Okay? I'm going to show you another way to do images, which is the Next.js version that has a lot of benefits for the computer and for rendering your page later on. It accomplishes the same thing, it just has a little bit more setup. But before I do that, do we have any questions? Are we all good? Okay. So in order to do it with a React element, let me show you how you can get to this specific part. I have too many cussin' tabs open. Okay. If you go to your resources section on Canvas, there's this Next.js/Hero UI guide right here, right? This is made by Jake, my TA, who's helping me understand how these React apps work and function. And on them is a table of contents right here for TSX and HTML. If we zoom in, you'll see there's an image section right here, which is what I'm about to show you. Okay? So if we click on image and go to slide 18, this is going to show the benefits of using the Next.js image compared to the HTML image. Okay? So those benefits are HTML is always going to load your images at full resolution, which slows down your web page, makes your user experience not as fun, and increases network traffic for people who don't have as accessible an internet connection, right? It loads your images at the load of the page instead of as necessary. And the rules for HTML images are not very well enforced. Bless you, bless you. Which means with loosely enforced rules, it's more likely that your image could break or stop working. By using the Next.js image element, which is a capital I, it's got strict rules, which means a little bit of setup, but more benefit once you set it up, when it's used correctly and effectively. The Next.js image automatically converts images to WebP, which slows down load, speeds up network traffic, and is more compatible with a wide variety of browsers and devices. It's also dynamically adjusting the resolution, so if you're a photographer and you've got massive 4K, 8K, huge 12K plus images, and you want to keep your website loading quickly, loading snappily, the image element will not only load those pictures faster, but it will cache them for your users so they don't have to reload them every time. And these are the benefits that, as you get more into your development career, things that coding rooms or developing situations want you to consider. Okay? Hero UI also has its own image element, but it's not as, it looks nicer, but it doesn't function as well. This is a little historic context for why, excuse me, I had the hiccups, for why we're going to try the Next.js image as well. And so to create a Next.js image, a lot of the same rules apply. We got to first make sure that we have an image that we want to source. The source is always the most important because it's what the image actually is, right? So if we use, which one we haven't used yet? I have a very boat-themed photography lately. I like living by the coast. So let's use this one from Bremerton, right? I'm going to click and drag this picture into my public folder so that it appears for my March template, right? My computer knows where to find the file that I'm asking it to find. But it's got the big long 000550218.jpg. Way too much. That's far too chewy of a file name. We want to pare that down a little bit by right-clicking, renaming. We'll call this just port for now, port.jpg or marina. You know, you want to accurately describe what the picture is so that your other developers know what it is when they receive it, okay? When you create a Next.js image element, you do have to write the shift comma, shift period, because it behaves a little bit differently than some of the HTML you've experienced, okay? So I'm going to shift comma, and I'm going to do a capital I image, and you'll notice that it's green, which creates this drop-down of options that could be useful, could be important for what we're doing here. Let's try clicking on this guy right here. Did not do what I wanted it to. Didn't do it in first period either. Okay? A good habit to get into web design-wise is starting and closing your tags before you add elements. Okay? So I'm just going to hit a little slash, period, so that my image is nice and happy and my page isn't freaking out. Okay? Now, you see I'm getting some errors. There's an empty string because we haven't provided everything. It's missing all of these required properties, right? The page still loads. I can still access my document or my website, but we're missing some things here. Okay, we're making a parent element. The image is now a container for the information necessary for that image to display. This is the part where it's a little bit more setup, but you get the benefit of a more efficient, more coder developer-friendly web page in the future. Okay? What's the most important part of an image? It's 3 letters. What is it? SRC. We always need sources. Those are always going to be the most important. Okay? Hit enter. Oh, just kidding. We want quotes for SRC. What's after SRC? What's the second most important part? Somebody I haven't heard from yet. It's 3 letters. Starts with an A. Then you just only have to guess 2 letters. You got 2 and 26 shot with 13ths. Alt. For real. Okay. There we go. Alt text. And now when you're creating an image bucket with the React version, the green React version, the HTML version is fine, but the React version is a more future-proof one. You also need a width and a height, and this is required for the React version, like that. Okay, now you can see my page has failed to compile after I have refreshed. It's because we're missing alt and we're missing a source, we're missing alt, and we're missing that width and height. Okay. Because my port.jpg is inside of my public folder, I'm able to go /port.jpg. Okay. Control S. Let's add some alt text of image of a marina in Bremerton. Wah. Okay. And then period. This is how I like to do alt text. I think it helps the user because it's just a caption, basically. You don't have to go this specific. You will later, but not right now. But my web page still isn't compiling. It's because a width and a height are required when you create the React image bucket. And how you find that width and height is 2 ways. You can either hold Alt and hit Enter, which is going to open up this little properties panel of our original image, or you can right-click and go to the wrench and click on Properties right here. Now Properties, I wish it was a little bit bigger. If we go to this Details section right here, that's going to give me some dimensions. Okay? If I click on Details and scroll down just a little bit, you'll see right here there are dimensions of width and height for this file. If I wanted it to render at 100%, which I do because this element that we're creating is going to do a lot of my math and my processing for me, so I'm just going to leave it at full size. Okay? So my width is 6774 and my height is 4492. I just need to copy that directly, pull this, make sure this window is visible. We'll go 6774, and then in the height we will go 4492. Okay? 4492. Oh, that's a big image. Okay, Control S to save. Now when I go back to my page, it's loaded again. And when I scroll down a little bit, there's my Bremerton Marina in my, my water-themed little example here. I am going to click and drag this, or click and Control X to cut. Oops, I didn't actually want to do that. Control S to save. I want to put my marina in between my two images. Oh, okay, hold on. Control X. Let's do one thing at a time. Control V, Control S. There we go. So now my marina has popped in between my two wave images because I want to make it look at least a little bit nice. Okay? So the difference between image number 1 and image number 2, this one is the React version. So this is Next.js, and this is the HTML version. Okay? If I were to fully close out my server, I want you to pay attention to how long it takes the public images to load, so that's going to be the waves and the marina, compared to the wave, the blue wave picture at the bottom. Okay? So if I start my server, npm run dev, okay, control click on my localhost, see how long it takes the wave image to load. I've been coding on the recipes page for example's sake. Okay? Well, we couldn't tell because it's the wrong size. Trust me when I say that this image is going to load, this one right here, is going to load way slower than these two. Okay? Because this one has better web info. That's an exclamation point. There we go. Info. And this one has full HTML processing. That's more just kind of like for the future. That's like a tip more so than how you actually get your image on the page. We've covered that already. There's two different options. Just always make sure that it's in the public folder and that you're renaming it so that it's easier for your computer to find it. Make sure you have that slash at the front and that you always have these two most important parts, which are src and alt. Okay? Does that make sense? I talked way longer than I intended to. I apologize. So keep working on your About Me pages. I'm going to have them, we're going to be done with them on Monday. So if you still need a little bit more time, you have a little bit more time. You got the rest of today. I'll be helping you as I wander around. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't make your life harder than it has to be. Okay? That's web design advice and also, not web design.